Hey, welcome to the Grow Your Camp podcast. I'm Mark,
And I'm Carl.
and we're here to, no, not pump you up, but we are here to help you grow, and that is why we do the podcast for camp leaders just like you. We're glad you're here. What we do in about 20 minutes is to share stories and systems to help you grow, because you can't minister to empty beds. And today's episode is a fascinating interview with Molly Hooks. She's the outreach forester at the American Forest Foundation. And you go, what in the world is that? She's going to tell you about it. But the reason we brought Molly on is that she's found a way for camp leaders to have a significant impact on the environment and earn some income for the camp. So today's episode is called, Is There Gold in Your Woods? But before we dive into the interview with Molly, Carl has a 1-minute Grow Your Camp tip.
Today's tip is your photos could help you get more bookings than you think. The reality is your photos on your website are selling your camp more than your words. See, when people are on your website, they don't just want to read about your facilities. They want to be able to picture their group at your camp. When they're scrolling the website, they're subconsciously asking themselves, is this facility going to work for my group? So when you think about that, like, are your photos showing empty pictures? Like, is your dining hall empty? Is your lodging rooms empty? Are your sports fields empty? Or are they showing people actively engaged in worship? Lots of people looking like they're having fun eating together, or students looking like they're playing a fun game together. Because that's going to play way better than pictures of empty buildings or lame stock photos. The reality is people trust people, not buildings. And so real people-filled photos are going to help you increase your inquiry rates because they're going to help you build trust with your audience fast. So if you do one thing this month, go to your website, look at your photos, replace those outdated or empty looking photos with images of authentic images that have people in them looking like they're having fun. It'll help you build trust fast. So give it a try and let us know how it works.
And here's a bonus tip. Where do you find those photographers? I have found great success in hiring local real estate photographers. So take a look at that. You might have somebody in your region that can do that for you. So thanks, Carl. Appreciate the good tip. Photos matter. Matter of fact, what's the old saying? Photos better than 1,000 words. So let's make our camp website's photos are up and rolling good. Okay, before Molly and Carl have a conversation, I want to show you a quick explainer video because I needed it myself, honestly. I really needed help figuring out what is it that's going on, and I'm going to play that right now.
Landowners want to do the right thing. They've cared for their land for generations. They know every square inch of their land and what it can do for their community, what it can do for the planet. Carbon is the new frontier. As we know, trees are the world's lungs. So holding the trees on the earth a little bit longer while providing the landowner an annual income stream makes the world go round. The Family Forest Carbon Program was co-developed by the American Forest Foundation and the Nature Conservancy. The program provides landowners with an annual payment to modify the way that they do traditional forestry to hold additional carbon from the atmosphere in their product and onto the land. It helps landowners develop a plan that works with the goals that they've already got outlined. CO2 is a greenhouse gas, and the more CO2 there is in the atmosphere, the warmer that the planet gets. So when we think of carbon sequestration in the context of forests, we often think of it being stored sort of in the roots, in the leaves, in the trees themselves. So we can modify the way we use these trees to suck that CO2 out of the atmosphere. And corporations have the resources to help us deal with climate change. They're doing everything that they can to, say, fly less planes or drive less trucks, directly or indirectly reduce the emissions that they have in their supply chain. And when they get to the very tail end of it, and they're still trying to reach net zero goals and they can't quite get there, that would be a natural climate solution, like the Family Forest Carbon Program, like our carbon credits. So simply put, think of a carbon credit like when we change the way we do forestry, we're quantifying the difference. We've quantified this difference, we've quantified this benefit from the forests, and we can then take those credits and sell them to companies. So when a landowner enrolls, regardless of what their footprint is with us, all of these landowners get a forest management plan, which we help pay for, and that management plan is for their whole property. The cool thing about the Family Forest Carbon Program is that these payments are guaranteed regardless of the outcome. We're not actually paying landowners for their carbon, we're paying them to modify the way they do forestry in the hopes that if we aggregate enough of that difference, we will generate carbon credit. I love being at the forefront of something innovative, right? Like forestry is something that we've participated in for a long time, but thinking about it creatively and differently and still doing what we've been doing, but bringing those new innovative ways of doing forestry to landowners is really exciting.
Yes, that is so helpful to understand. I remember when I was at Sandy Cove, a retreat center on the Chesapeake Bay, and we had to do a sewer plant. We did some horse trading with companies that needed credits, and it helped us reduce our costs. It was very creative. I'd never heard of such a thing. Molly, Carl, take us away and tell us some stories.
So, Molly, we're excited to hear more about the Family Forest Carbon Program. But before we get there, I'm just curious, how has camp impacted your life personally?
Man, I actually grew up going to a few different camps in my life. The first one that I remember is Camp La Vida, which is in South Carolina. And I grew up going there until about middle school. And then I ended up going to Camp Gravette, also in South Carolina. And I developed a lot of friendships there, learned a lot about, the gospel, but also really had some um, meaningful and impactful moments in the woods doing those activities like archery, and we did some skeet shooting and swimming in the ponds and the lakes and everything like that. They're some of my fondest memories for sure. I really think that when I went to these camps growing up, it really established like a want and a need to serve the environment and really conserve what we have. And I really think about the time back in 2017. I was a senior in high school. I went to Camp Gravette to watch the eclipse, the solar eclipse. Edgefield, South Carolina was in the totality. So me and all my friends, there was a huge celebration at Camp Gravette held by them. We all went down there and watched the eclipse. We camped out. We had a really good time and just spent all like 24 hours of running around, fishing, swimming, getting on the blob and, shooting up and having a great time. And just seeing the eclipse and how the world around me just absolutely like it just came alive when the solar eclipse happened. And yeah, it really is magical. And I just wanted to thank y'all for your work in camps too, because I am a product of those kinds of camps.
And so now you get a chance to work with camps all over the place. So you work at American Forest Foundation. You're an outreach forester. Tell us a little bit about what that role is and how does that translate to helping camp specifically?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, I'm an outreach forester. So I work primarily with getting landowners enrolled in our program. The landowner can be everything from a retired farmer who's just looking to, diversify his income. You maybe move some cattle out of his land, everything from him to someone who inherited property from his parents and just trying to figure out what to do. And that gets to also camps. Anything that's privately owned, we can enroll in our program. So everything from just family owned land to trusts, LLCs, anything like that that's privately owned, we can enroll in our program. And so I work with landowners to basically one, get their land enrolled, figure out how much acreage they have that is eligible for the program. And then also I end up typically writing a forest management plan for those landowners. If I don't write it, I directly help get that contracted out to get a forest management plan to fit their long-term goals for their land.
So camps fit in here because a lot of camps are sitting on pretty large acreage, a lot of it forested, and some of that land, sometimes large swaths of that land, are staying forested and sitting dormant. I think it's pretty cool. So how does that like? Tell us a little bit more about how that actually works. I know we heard about some of that in the video, but like, how does that actually work for a camp?
Yeah, so like most camps, I haven't talked to anyone in a camp that's looking to make money off of their timber, because they're using those woods as recreation. They're holding, any think of any kind of game, capture the flag. I played that a lot at camps growing up. Anything like that, manhunt, whatever. They're using those woods for recreation, so why would they want to cut them down and do a, very significant harvest? And so I really do encourage camps, of all types, if they have, good established forests, to look into the program, because it really aligns, I think, with a lot of people's values, that run camps. And it's just an extra way to get some money for your program, just an extra source of income revenue. And I know for some camps, I've talked about, with folks that, property taxes are going up in a lot of these areas. Developers are looking to, buy out the land, whatever it may be. This is another way to hopefully keep that land, in the camp's name or in your family's name, whatever it may be. Um, and just an extra way to just keep some money around to help cover the cost of maintaining that land.
And Molly, it's interesting. When I first became president at Sandy Cove, I was just Googling Sandy Cove and I found this thing called the Sandy Cove Covenant. And it's where a lot of faith-based leaders came in and had a retreat there. And they introduced me to a phrase, and it's this: creation care. Creation care. And what you're talking about feels very much like creation care.
Yeah.
So, Molly, is there maybe you said this, is there a minimum, is there a minimum amount of acreage that someone would have to have for this program to make sense?
We require a 30-acre minimum, but that doesn't have to be contiguous. I know a lot of camps have open areas, fields, whether that is, open areas for archery or soccer or whatever it may be. Those forested acres don't need to be contiguous, is essentially what I'm trying to say. If it's kind of patchy, as long as it all comes out to 30 acres, that's absolutely eligible. And even if it falls slightly below, like 28 or 29, typically we make exceptions for those situations as well.
I don't
So
think that's going to be a problem with our camps. Carl, I feel like the average camp we work with is hundreds of acres.
exactly, yeah. Most of the camps I've talked to are more than over the minimum acreage requirement.
Yeah, and it's rare to find a camp where, not only is it hundreds of acres, but it's a small percentage of of that acreage that's
Like
actually been
20%
developed
are
or
being
open.
used.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So, Molly, just to help contextualize this, do you have an example of a camp you've worked with and how that worked? Just kind of quickly going through start to finish how that worked for that camp?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first person that comes to mind is somebody who I actually tabled with at the Great Gathering Conference. His name's Reverend Drew Tucker. He is with Hopewood Outdoors in Ohio.
Yeah, I know Drew.
Super great. Yeah, he's awesome. I love Drew. He was super helpful, and I just really liked getting to know him. But essentially, the process of enrollment, what someone can expect when looking into the program is they would go to our website, put in their information about, their parcel, and then from there, the mapping software will say whether you are eligible or whether you're not eligible, just by doing a quick, rapid assessment. From there, an account manager or a call center representative would reach out to the landowner to get more information about the history of the property, what your goals are for the property. And then from there, a call with a forester would be scheduled. That could be me. I'm based in the southern region, so I'm based in Georgia. So I get a lot of landowners from Georgia, Alabama, and South Carolina and Florida. I know Drew worked with our Central Apps foresters for his enrollment. So he would get a call from a forester at the time that he would schedule it. They would talk about, again, getting more information about the goals of the property, the history of the property. And then from there, a site visit would be scheduled. So a forester would come walk the land, really get to know the lay of the land, and get to know the landowner, and maybe some, like I mentioned earlier, some goals, like if you want to manage, for example, a certain wildlife species, or if you want to manage a certain invasive plant species, that can be talked about and also written into a forest management plan, which you do get with your enrollment a little bit after you would sign the contract and everything. You would get more information about what to expect for a forest management plan. And let me also add, the forest management plan covers the entire property, not just the enrolled acres that we have. So if you have, for example, we don't enroll like predominantly conifer forests. So if there's a big area of your of your um, of your camp that is primarily pine stands, for example,
Yeah.
um, that wouldn't be in our program, but we would still write in our forest management plan how you can manage those pine stands sustainably, and give you some good information about how you can really improve your forest for the long run.
Got it. So you're going to get more than just a plan to potentially qualify for the carbon credits or be a part of that program. You're
Hmm.
also going to get a plan for the whole plot. That's awesome.
Yes.
And I loved that. If people are just curious to see, would this even work for my land? I think I heard you say they could fill out the form and there's some kind of like online way of doing like a quick assessment to see
Yes.
if this would even potentially be a fit for you. Obviously that's going to be followed up with more conversation and evaluation, but I love that there can be that kind of just quick way of checking it out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, well, I just pulled up the familyforestcarbon.org site,
Hmm.
and what you're talking about, Molly, to get started.
Yes.
So you get started, see if you qualify, check your eligibility, and it doesn't have to be a huge commitment of time. It's just like first look, can we or can we not do it?
Yes,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Well,
Yeah.
Molly, this was super helpful, and I was going to ask you where could people find out more about this program. And Mark, you were right on spot with pulling the website up.
Yeah.
So that would be let's give them that website address again, just to make sure. Though that's familyforestcarbon.org, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Molly. Good talking with
Thank
Molly,
you.
y'all.
Molly, I'm so glad that you had a camp experience in your background. And I just want to say to all of you camp leaders that are listening, thank you for creating unforgettable real life experiences for this anxious generation who are glued to their screens. And that's why we say at Grow Your Camp podcast, you can't minister to empty beds. When those beds are empty, then we've got kids out looking at their screens rather than looking at creation. So thank you guys for doing what you do. What you do matters. Hey, let's just grow together. And we've got two favors for you, Carl and I both have. One is remember to subscribe, like, share this episode. And two, you want to help juice up the podcast? Well, you might not be a full-on guest like Molly, but we have a little place on our website that you can record a question or topic. It's not like talk radio, but we'll play your question on a few future episodes, so you'll be world famous on the interweb. And we'll do our best to answer and practical stories and systems to help you grow. So you can just go to the growyourcamppodcast.com, click on submit your topic. Thank you so much for being a part of the Grow Your Camp podcast. Let's grow together.